All right, here we go. Come on in. Full Tilt Vegas is underway live from the Go Live Vegas studios. Richard is out today. I myself am in to talk plenty in the world of sports and sports gambling, but I will not be doing it alone. I am joined by a longtime friend of the show and a longtime friend of mine, Michael Lugo. We know him as just Lugo.
How we doing, baby?
In the past, he has been known as Text Line Lugo. He's done some stuff with me on the local radio scene, so we're happy to have him in. Football coach at the high school level, deeply rooted along as well as some other sports, flag football, track and field, former collegiate football player, and like myself, when he's not doing any of that, he's analyzing sports, he's talking sports. So much like myself, he has been immersed in this field for a long time, a bettor in his own right as well. So we're looking forward to hearing his picks and his takes. We'll break down some lines. But what's fun about this show is that normally when I get up here, I give my whole spiel, my whole shtick. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. Obviously, this is a outcome-based industry, a results-based industry, and I like to do the best I can to analyze, to handicap, to prognosticate ahead of time. But every once in a while, it's fun, especially when you have an old buddy like Lugo and a friend of the network he's tuned in regularly to several of our shows, our Unicon coverage. He has been a part of it, so we're happy to have him in here. And a big-time fan. And on the days like today, we really want to just kind of sit back. We'll have some betting talk, don't worry, but we really just want to sit back and really just chew over what has been happening lately in the world of sports. Now, before we start, obviously, this week, to say it's somber would be an understatement. Sports are probably, in the grand scheme of things, very, very minimal in comparison to some of the other events that have taken place, not just this week, but in recent weeks altogether. But obviously, with the most recent happening in Texas this past week, obviously, it's hard to truly get a distraction, nor should you have a distraction given what went down. This is not something that should be glossed over, but anytime we can at least just sit back and focus on some of the more positive things that do bring us joy, that's needed in times like now. So again, obviously those aspects are very much in our thoughts and in our prayers. Obviously, I know the thoughts and prayers is a very polarizing statement, but it still deserves to be said nonetheless. There's going to be a lot of conversation and ongoing discussion. Me, myself, Lugo, Aaron himself, our producer, he has been involved in social media. That aspect is inevitable, so I couldn't start the show without at least bringing that up, and obviously we do this with a very heavy heart. But we will do our best to still push forward and talk about sports, even with that in our mind, because there is a lot to talk about, and there is no reason we can't still focus on something positive and have some fun. Big wrestling scene in Vegas, as Aaron just lets me know on the prompter. I was actually a part of that. We had AEW Dynamite television taping on Wednesday, had Rampage last night, that going down at the Michelob Ultra Arena, and then tomorrow at T-Mobile, Double or Nothing. 3-year anniversary, the first Double or Nothing event I was here for at the MGM Grand Garden in 2019. 3 years later, AEW is coming back. Tony Khan and company have a hell of a show planned for tomorrow. So we may dabble into some pro wrestling talk a little bit, as other shows like to do here. I'm sure they had plenty to talk about this morning on Go Live Vegas. But we got to dive into the sports, Lugs, because there is so much on this Eastern Conference Finals plate. Game 7. For the longest time, we didn't know how deep this series would go, because every other game, it's like the script is completely flipped. The storylines are completely turned on their head, and every game has been a blowout. Every time, it's just to call out it is, we've dealt with straight up ass whoopings for the most part.
The first four for sure. The last two
have been a little tighter until the very end,
because it turns into a free throw game, and
absolutely.
That pumps up the score a little bit.
Absolutely, and the fouling at the end, kind of some of these runs get a little more extended. So no doubt about that. But overall, we've had a lot of lopsided final scores here, so it's kind of hard to really put your thumb and get a gauge on what has taken place. But the story that we know, based off of Game 6, Jimmy Butler comes alive, 47 points. They get the job done at the Garden, a game that many people thought would be the absolute dagger. Here we are, though. They wind up having a convincing win over Boston because, much like you said, they were able to do at the end there. And now we're set up for a Game 7 going down in Miami tomorrow night with the Heat laying 2.5. As I wipe my brow because it's a little steamy here, as Vegas is starting to get a little balmy outside, I will throw it to you, Lugo, right off the bat. Who do you like given that point spread? We'll analyze the matchup here in a moment. Just right off the bat, though, who do you like in this game on the line?
I'm liking Jimmy G buckets, period, point blank. Boston's going to put up a good fight, I think, but being at home, having that home court advantage, a lot of people comparing this series to the series we had with LeBron. What was it, back in 2011?
Yep, 2012 against the Thunder. Yep.
Exactly. No, against Boston.
Oh yeah, before when he clinched to get there, because Thunder won the West that year with Durant, right?
Oh, exactly. Yep. Yeah, so
it was phenomenal. It's one of his all-time greats.
It's great to have a series this close again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Especially with how quick this West went.
Yeah.
But hey, We got two teams that can get buckets and play defense.
And
you
this,
know what I mean?
And this kind of happened last year in the conference finals with the Western series between LA and Phoenix, because every game with that was so weird in the end, kind of different. It wasn't so much a blowout type of factor. They were these crazy barn burner type of finishes. So for the first 4 games of that series, you had no idea who the momentum belonged to. It's kind of like this year, only the games have been that much more one-sided when they're all said and done.
The home court.
The home court, and exactly. And that brings me to my next point. Game 7, so often those big factors, those big advantages, such as home court, often go out the window, as do the matchups. The biggest factor I said last week on this show when analyzing this series is looking at the matchups on a 1-5 basis. Pretty damn even when you look at the starters. The one edge Miami had was their bench, with what Oladipo and Tyler Hero could do scoring-wise coming off, and we saw that the lack thereof that. Oladipo hasn't been exactly the most consistent, and Hero being hurt has been a big issue. You see the lack of his production basically just off of his lack of activity based off of what we just saw in the last series. We clearly know Miami functions differently without him there. So obviously the injuries are a factor.
Exactly.
You have Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker banged up for tomorrow, but Boston has had that issue too. We've had Al Horford and Marcus Smart out right off from the beginning. We had William Grant. We had Jason Tatum get rolled up. All these guys are going through it, and the durability has been a factor in every game. There's no reason it won't be a factor in Game 7.
Because the series is getting more physical by
Absolutely.
the game.
More, and that's why players like Jimmy Butler and Marcus Smart make it so interesting. And Bam Adebayo, who has been another one who's kind of a little
starting to heat up. And
is
slower pace.
Yep.
Starting to get down to him in the post.
Yep.
He's starting to make plays out there.
He's doing what Bam does best. Because when Bam, we both know, we talked about this while watching the games just this past week. Bam Adebayo is at his best when he plays the point forward, essentially. And now they're giving them the opportunity to do that a little more like we saw in prior series. And that very factor was what we figured would be such a big advantage for Miami, even with Boston's strong lineup that was able to kick the ass of Brooklyn and, for at some points of that series, Milwaukee, respectively. So obviously Boston, I think it was kind of hard to really judge who they were because I think Brooklyn was a little overrated, and I think the fact what we saw against Milwaukee, I think teams were still a little unsure with the Bucks.
Injury is different,
because we were so unsure of what the Bucks really were without Middleton, and they proved to be a far different team. But this has been a phenomenal series. We'll get to what happened in the West. We'll recap everything with Golden State in a moment. But right off the bat, that's Lugo's pick. He's liking Jimmy Butler. He expects him probably not to have a 47-point game, but another big game at that. I'm liking Miami with the points. At the end of the day, last week I gave a straight-up money line play. This week, I'm giving an ATS play. I like Miami to win the game. I think they get it done. But even if they don't, give me the 2.5 at home. I love home dogs in just about any sport, especially when the point spread is that big of a factor, such as the NFL, college football, and the NBA. So I like this spot. I don't think the home crowd will necessarily break Boston or make Miami. However, it's certain ebbs and flows in the game. It's a game of runs. We saw Boston get off on that huge run the other night in a Game 5. We see some of these, and then obviously Miami yesterday in Game 6. We see some of these games get really, really out there sometimes, and I think for that very reason, it's kind of one of those games where you have to throw a lot of those factors again out the window. That's why I don't bet player props in Game 7. It's why I don't hang my hat on these matchups, even if these matchups have been more concrete in prior games. I kind of just like to sit back, let the pieces fall where they may, because so often, Mike, we see Game 7s go nuts with these runs, with these peaks and valleys. So I think it's just a little easier, at least for me as a bettor. You do what you want. You bet what you know, and you bet what you're comfortable with. But for me, if I'm betting, I like to sit back and either play the total or the line on this one.
Yeah, especially those in-game bettors, that third quarter when the Heat start heating up.
Yep.
I've always said Warriors are the best third quarter team I've ever seen.
And we talked about that the other day.
When it comes to adjustments in any sport.
It's unreal.
And the Heat are catching up because what they've done in the third quarter in the playoffs has just been unreal.
And I think that's kind of been the story of the two conference finals respectively, what Golden State and what Miami have been able to do on those games that they win coming out of the half. And some teams, a lot of that has to do with coaching. We know what Steve Kerr does in terms of his adjustments. We know what Eric Spoelstra does in terms of their adjustments. And that leads me to my next point before we wrap up our little preview. There's, again, a lot to recap because that's what's so fun about the NBA series on a game-by-game basis. But here we are on the eve of a Game 7. All that matters is this one more game. So we'll chew on over that a little in a few more minutes. But I just have to ask you, what do you think will be the defining factor outside of Jimmy Butler. Do you think it'll be the coaching? I love what Ime Udoka has done. Incredible. But at the same time, Eric Spoelstra, one of the brightest minds in the game. And you don't want, just like Bill Belichick in football and some of these other coaches, a Nick Saban in college football, there's certain coaches in a certain spot, they get that much better, and you don't want them in that spot. Been a whole lot easier to win that game at the TD Garden, not giving Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler a Game 7. You could have gone for the dagger. That's why I think this plays into Miami's favor, because now Spoelstra can really go to cook.
I think the Heat's X factor's got to be Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, like we just
Hands
mentioned.
down. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
He's got to go in there. He's got to play tough. He's got to bully them around. He's got to get Horford. He's got to be able to cover from the line into the paint. He's got to be dominant on the boards. He's got to be that X factor. Everyone's been talking about where has he been? What is he doing? He's starting to warm up. It is time to make a statement for him. There's no better way to make a statement than there is in Game 7 on your own home court. This is his time. I'm sure Jimmy's going to get his buckets, because Jimmy G buckets, and the G stands for gets.
It's a real thing in the playoffs. It really
Exactly.
is. And when he's healthy, because we saw last week on the show, one of my plays was a player prop for Jimmy Butler to go over 26 points on a Saturday night. I believe it was a Game 2, maybe a Game 3. I can't remember. It all gets muddled together. But he wound up getting hurt that game.
Exactly.
And not only my prop go down the window, the Heat the next game. Their chances, I won't say all in all, but they went down the wind. They very much lowered entirely, because we now realize just how important, really we already knew beforehand, but it's just another example, I should say, of how important Jimmy Butler is to the team.
Those injuries feel a lot better when you're at home.
Bingo.
Than when you're on the road.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. And let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on the total? Because even the way some of these games in this series have finished, I think so too. I think
it's gonna be like an 86, 85
And I
game.
think sometimes when you have two teams that have a lot of physicality in their lineup and that have a lot of just straight dogs in their lineup, like both these teams do, you always want to bet the under. A lot of times, Lugo, in Game 7, it's just kind of more safe to bet the under anyway, because a lot of times defenses in these do-or-die type games are what make or break them. And it's not saying if you take the over, you're on the wrong side, but 195.5 dropped down from 199. I'm still going to take the under. If I got around 186, 190 range, then I maybe go up a little bit. But the playoff lines are so tough, whether they be the up and down, the point spread, the money lines. They're always so on the nose. The NBA is one of the most legitimate, precise betting operations in terms of how they handle the spread, and it's one of the hardest to profit in, and that's why it just gets that much tighter in the playoffs. A quick money line price they're currently sitting at right now. Let's see, I just had it up. Miami's coming back as a plus 118 dog at home. So Boston, the 136 favorite. Miami, the plus 118 dog. Early money line pick. I'll pick Miami in the points right now. And I actually have a pretty strong opinion on that. Don't know if I'll play.
I'd go money line.
Yeah, I think I may play the money line too. I said I don't know for sure if I'm going to play the total, but I'm thinking right now my two picks for this game. Again, I stay away from player props for Game 7s, and I'm staying away from the total as far as firing on it. But I'm leaning under, and go ahead and give me Miami with the 2.5 points and with the win.
And I would say, just as far as the Celtics, I know we were riding with the Heat. As far as the Celtics, I think that X factor for them to really pull it off would have to be Marcus Smart again.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But
Horford and Smart are going to be the do or die.
Exactly. The road team just gets you on the road team just gets you on the my bad. The road team gets dang, how did I just lose that right there? Oh my God. Role players are hard to
I get what you're
There
saying.
you go.
Absolutely. The role players, guys off the bench, there are certain factors that when they just come off. That's why Hero has always been exceptional at home. You look at Hero, obviously when he really came on the scene, they were in the bubble. But for the most part, Tyler Hero, when he's playing in Miami, is just a different animal. But it's going to be, like you said, Marcus Smart still hobbled by the ankle. We'll see how he plays. He's probably going to be the physical presence that they need that could counter what Miami brings to the table. But it's going to come down to the Jays.
Exactly.
Jalen and Jason. If they go off, if Tatum and Brown go off, they are going to have their best chance of beating Miami, because that's the only thing that can truly counter Jimmy Butler and some of these guys off the bench when they start knocking them down. And normally, just for the record, I don't play money line and spread. I usually go one or the other. So these are two, just for an example, these are two plays I would make, not so much a hedging scenario, but kind of a risk management. I would make these two separate plays, probably in two separate books too. I'd shop around that. It looks like it's stable at 2.5, stabilized at 2.5, pretty much anywhere you look. So I'd probably just shop around, see the best line I could get, but I'd make two different plays at two different books. Fire on one for Miami to win, fire on the other for Miami to cover. So it should be fun one way or the other. We're going to have something to talk about a week from now as someone will be on their way to meet the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. So that does it. Yes, sir. That does it for our recap and preview of everything going down in the East. Game 7 coming down tomorrow night. We'll see how me and Lugo do. But after the break, we will talk about what went down in the Western Conference Finals, and is this Golden State team getting back into their old ways? And by their old ways, I don't just mean championships. I'm talking about one of the premier dynasties of all time. Maybe the dynasty never really ended. It's on the other side. It's Full Tilt Vegas.
Hi, my name is Richard Delatorre. I'm the author of It's in the Book, Winning Ways. It's on Blackjack, Craps, and Roulette. And you can get it on Amazon, Google Play. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. And it teaches you the ratios and percentages of the casino, because the casino is really in charge. I put the percentages and ratios in your favor. You spend a little bit more money, but you have a better chance of winning. Doesn't mean you're going to win. No book should ever say you guarantee you're going to win. But what I did do is I cut down the ratios and percentages so you fully understand them on these 3 games. So you can go ahead and get that book. I was one of the top selling books on Amazon 2018. I was number 7. I was with Doyle Brunson, Negreanu, The Magician, John Patrick. So I was pretty good for my first book. So you can go ahead and get that book and pretty much read it to where you pretty much got it memorized. And you should be walking the casino as pretty much as an expert on these 3 games. The platform here is Go Live Vegas Studios, and my show is called Full Tilt Vegas, 6 p.m. Saturday night. I do have guests. Brett Lawson is a sports analyst. He comes on after me. Sometimes we double up. He does it on all the sports, and you can go ahead and see that. And I'll see you next Saturday or every Saturday at 6 p.m. on Full Tilt Vegas. Thank you very much.
Go Live Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
What's going on, everybody? Brett Lawson here, co-host of Full Tilt Vegas and local sports analyst. Just a quick heads up, moving forward, I will be a regular part of the show where my segment, the back end of the show, will focus on everything in the world of sports gambling. You will still have Richard's insights and expertise and everything from his book, Winning Ways, in the first part of the show, where he will dabble with table games and overall floor-related gambling, where my part of the show will focus on analyzing matchups, odds, totals, money lines, spreads, props, overall gambling, psychology, and philosophy, and just the things you need to know if you want to become a sports bettor or if you already are a sports bettor and want to sharpen your skills in that racket. So stick around. Moving forward, you will have both ends of the spectrum in the world of gambling with Richard and myself moving forward on Full Tilt Vegas. All right. What's that?
That's groovy.
Oh, that's groovy. We're always grooving here in the Go Live Vegas studios as we roll onward with Full Tilt Vegas. Brett in for Richard, joined by longtime fan of the show, fan of the network, and one of my best friends, period, Michael Lugo, the coach. He's in with us breaking down some hoops. Doesn't have actually a lot of experience coaching hoops, but a former, technically, college basketball player, if you are being technical, as well as a college football player and high school football coach, as well as track and field and flag football, and recreational flag football star as well. So, you know, it's always great to have a primed athlete here on the show.
Fatly.
As he calls himself, Fatly.
For the culture.
Former offensive lineman, always repping that lineman culture. So, Lugo, obviously, one thing I know about you, you're a Bulls fan, but you're a big supporter. You're right. You have the ongoing endorsement and have had for a long time of the Golden State Warriors. And you have for many years said that this dynasty is not done because there are 3 players not named Kevin Durant who have been there since he departed, who have had something to say about it. And here we are once more. The Golden State Warriors are in the NBA Finals waiting to see who they will play, whether it be Boston or Miami, come tomorrow. But the main story there is that, once again, The big three, the Splash Bros and Draymond, have solidified themselves as not just one of the best big threes of their era, but one of the best big threes of all time. And the big threes are funny because you always wonder who is the true big three. A lot of times it's a generational thing. A lot of times it's a regional thing or a local thing. But usually it's just kind of a collective umbrella term for just that. Three studs who are a key part of not just success, but a stretch of ongoing success, as we have seen now with the Golden State Warriors. Goes to show, as great as Kevin Durant is, maybe the greatest ever plays position in terms of scoring and all that, phenomenal, but it just goes to show that through it all, he was really the icing more than the cake. Now, it was some pretty big icing because we saw it made them that much better to the point where they were probably unbeatable, and those 2017, 2018 Golden State teams may be the best I've ever seen. So it's one of those things where, yes, he did make them better. There's no brainer. There's no disregarding that.
It's just to gas himself up. He's all good.
But it just goes to show, whether you like what Kevin Durant did or not, it just goes to show this Golden State Warrior team was perfectly capable all along, and now they don't even have to deal with one particular player leading Cleveland every year out of the East. The East has gotten that much deeper in recent years. It's much tougher than it once was. We've seen the West do the same. We've seen Memphis. We've seen Dallas come up to the table. Denver still maybe a little bit behind, but obviously they have the back.
Young stars are stepping up,
and they have the back-to-back MVPs. So some teams, and of course Phoenix, who everyone thought was going to be the lock to win the West, so many teams have kind of emerged in recent years, but yet through it all, even though Golden State has not won since 2018, Golden State has also refused to become irrelevant, and they are right back in here today. I love the dramatic music here as we're getting emphatic with it. But Lugo, let me just ask you right off the bat, what do you think? Obviously, it's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. It's the system, the three-point shooting. Steve Kerr, Draymond Green being such an asset defensively. But what do you think really allowed the Warriors, on top of it all, to get back to where they are and where they are so familiar with, when so many people thought for 2 years now their time was done?
Like you said, man, it's that big three. That chemistry just hasn't left.
So it's just that simple. It's same song, different verse is what you're saying. There's nothing necessarily out, how do I put this? There's no key variable in this year than there has been in the past, because the variables are those three.
They got three dudes that make the dudes around them believe in the system, believe in the coach, believe in what they're doing, man, and it just shows every game, winning out. And when Steph Curry's hot, you don't want to see him. You're not going to keep score with him. It's just period. With that, and Klay coming back off that injury 2 years, back-to-back years, that really helped him, of course. And he's catching heat at the right time. Headband Klay. But like we've always said, year in, year out, it's Draymond. Draymond's
the X factor.
He leads the pack. He is the nucleus. He is the brain of it all.
The straw that stirs the drink. And I know in a way we mentioned multiple X factors already, but the system, in a way, if that's the main factor here, you have to look at the man who really makes the system go. And Steph Curry and Klay Thompson may really kind of be the engines with their shooting, but Draymond's almost the fuel to the engines. He's the fuel to the fire. Without Draymond doing what he has been able to do for a number of years now, being one of the best defensive players of his generation, an undersized big man, a guy who has also contributed from the perimeter as the smaller guys on the team have. This team has really gone on a smaller, almost positionalist type of rate. There's still debates if Steph Curry's a true point guard or if he's like a glorified shooting guard, and that's because Golden State has been able to do that.
Yep. Well, the way they move the ball, the way he's able to run around the court, I understand running around the court like that may make him seem like a little more of a shooting guard or whatnot, but you can't doubt the man's
position.
Exactly. He changed the position. You change. Like you said, I coached kids in high school. When we were in high school, everyone was driving to the rack trying to get on the rim.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Today, kids are just sitting in slides, jacking three-pointers up all night.
You watch a tournament every year, there's proof in front of your eyes exactly how much the league is changing. And you see some of the big men that, when we were in high school and college, some of the big men, they just entered the league too late. Like, who knows where guys like Dwight Howard would have been, or even Karl Anthony Towns, who's still a prominent player now. Some of these guys who, well, I know you have your opinions on him, but obviously he's a very good scorer. But some of these guys would have been that much bigger of a threat coming out. I mean, imagine what Joel Embiid would have been just a few years ago. And now a lot of things that Joel Embiid is dealing with have to do with durability and health, because even in today's game, he's going to absolutely shine. And we'll get to more on Joel in a second here when we talk about the NBA All-League teams. Those, spark some controversy as well, so we'll touch on that. But just looking at the Golden State front, like I said, same song, different verse. We could go ad nauseum over the next couple of weeks.
Jordan Poole.
Right, over the next couple
Game
of weeks,
changer.
there's other factors. Andrew Wiggins, he's playing a role that they were able to really do a plug-and-play type of approach with. We saw Harrison Barnes in the early part of the dynasty. Then we saw Kevin Durant, as we just talked about. Now it's Andrew Wiggins. We see them plug and play in the positions that are outside of those key 3 players that they have drafted, by the way, all homegrown, and then they bring everyone else to surround them when they need it. We saw Gary Payton playing incredible before he got banged up.
Oh, yeah.
We saw this a collection of talent that wasn't there before, now stepping up to supplement what was already there through the dynasty and through the couple years where they haven't been as strong, mainly because of injuries and some of these other things here and there. But now here they are, they're healthy, they're ready to go, and I'm very interested to see, regardless of who wins tomorrow between Miami and Boston, of what this series price will be. Obviously, the game-by-game lines, you could go into that. That's a different animal, was anybody who bets the NBA is going to dive into. But the series price for these things are always interesting, especially since so much of it is based off of the recent sample of what you've seen. Recent example of what we've seen from Golden State, Lugo. Pretty damn impressive, because that's what I want to jump into next. Obviously, at this point, we're looking forward more than we're recapping. But there was one point where Dallas finally got that win, and people thought, okay, well, maybe Dallas can do what they did against Phoenix. They could shift the momentum here. Their pieces surrounding Luka can step it up and score. And what happens? Golden State comes out in Game 5 and gives them the mean old gentleman sweep, saying, we gave you one. That's it. Nada, done. Bye-bye. Obviously, the main topic of surrounding the Dallas Mavericks in the offseason is going to be exactly how they build around Luka Doncic. And obviously, we've talked about it multiple times, Lugs. He needs a big man. He needs some key other perimeter pieces, obviously, as most teams in the NBA who aren't, the true upper echelon. That tends to be the case. Dallas is a team that I don't want to say they overachieved, because Luka is so prominent in the league and is such a good player.
Exceeded expectations.
They did exceed expectations, exactly.
Like, expected a playoff berth, you know what I mean?
And
but
maybe
to get
even
to the Western Conference Finals, you know what I mean?
Well said.
Luka just has he just honestly has that backpack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has everything
And
in the
he was
bag
phenomenal.
to pull everything out. Exactly.
And
but like it was when he was in the bubble
Yeah.
and made that game winner against the Clippers, he put everything he had into that game. And then he was gassed out the rest of that next game, and they lost the series. That one player carrying that backpack, it helps that they play defense a little bit more and create points off of the turnovers, and they have the shooters out there for him to rely on. But him doing all that, it just gets too tiring. I know we saw LeBron do it for multiple years, but he's just not at that level. But what helps him is that is the European professional basketball he's played.
Yes.
You can see that instantly.
And
even with the young guys around him, he doesn't
Yes.
even look like he's a young guy. You know what I mean?
That
He's
is
the
such
same
a great
age as
point.
those guys around him, and
He's-
they play more reckless basketball than he
He's been
does.
playing grown man basketball when he really wasn't even a grown man. When other
15,
college
right?
kids, huh?
15,
yeah,
right?
16
years old.
Whenever college kids, as great as they are, as freakish as they may be elite prospects. They're ultimately playing against other young men, other college kids. Luka wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Luka was playing against some mean,
Those dudes
nasty,
his age right now are still chilling in G League.
Those guys in some of those European leagues, and we see such a growth in Eastern European players now with Jokic and with Luka kind of leading the way with some of those Eastern European countries. That wasn't as common back then. It was more Central Western Europe as you get to the Mediterranean, almost Iberian area. Those are so many of the European names throughout our parents' generation and our generation. We're starting to see the Eastern European kind of circuit of ball come to prominence, and a big reason why they're emerging so ready in the league is because of what they go through, and as not just amateurs but as young pros. All these other guys that Luka's playing with, they were amateurs when they were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old.
Exactly.
He's not. He was a
Exactly.
professional basketball player. So that's what's so impressive about what Luka has done and been able to transition. And I think it's a big reason why so many of the draft analysts and the scouts were so confident that he would make that transition, since every couple of years we kind of go back to the same old conversation. Oh, he's a foreigner. Can he play with the Americans at the professional level who are used to playing through the D1 system, through the AAU system?
Running the show.
Luka is showing that his background may be the best way to equip you for immediate
He was in MVP
success.
voting this year, right?
Exactly.
Didn't
in
he
the
get MVP votes?
or in the NBA. And he did get MVP attention, and that's actually what we're going to shift to really quick before we go to break and wrap up our basketball talk. Me and Lugo love talking the hard when we could do this all day, but we'll get to some other stuff here later in the program. But The 2021-2022 Kia All-NBA team came out earlier this week. Some of the names we just mentioned right there were on the team. I'll read them off for you guys really quick in case you just need a quick refresher or just missed them entirely. At forward, you have Giannis. At the other forward, you have Tatum. Your two guards, you have Booker and you have Lugo. And then at center, you have Jokic, the back-to-back MVP.
Europeans.
Yep, and there you go. Just like we said, two Eastern Europeans coming to Providence right off the bat.
Greece.
Both first team.
Giannis is from Greece.
Yeah, there too, which is right north of Serbia.
Exactly.
You have Serbia, Slovenia, Greece, all these countries down there, man. They can play some serious ball. And here's what I wonder though: what do you think of Jokic being the MVP, being ahead of Joel Embiid? Now here's the problem. I get that he should be the first team center just off of what he was able to accomplish, but I can't sit here and look at Joel Embiid being left off that list because he's a center, but he led the league in scoring. I just don't see how you could leave. Yeah, I just don't see how you could leave. I just don't see how you could leave him off the list. But here's the problem. Maybe it's because the parameters of the list, the rules of the list to be of the teams, I shouldn't say the list, it's a starting five with 3 deep. I'll name again the second team. Joel Embiid at center, John Morant and Steph Curry as the guards, and Durant and DeMar DeRozan as the forwards. So, I mean,
you can't chip the MVP off the first team list.
And that's what I was just about to say. I get why you're putting him at center. He has a right to be there. But Joel Embiid not being on the first team makes me think maybe we should stop making it. We talk about the Warriors and some of these other teams in this era turning it into a positionalist game. Maybe now's the time we make it a positionalist 5. If we're going to do the 15 best players in the NBA and you're going to do 3 lineups
you should treat it like a true roster, you know what I mean? Like have a starting 5 with the center, and then the rest, the other 10 are just the other top 10 players. Because
some would say you could put Joel as the power forward there.
Exactly.
But then, who are you booting off the power forward? Where's Giannis going to go?
Exactly.
So it's an ongoing conversation. So maybe the best way
Because I would even put Joel over Tatum.
You wouldn't.
To be honest, I would.
You would. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. So instead of being forced to have 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center, if the 5 best players in the league are 2 centers and 3 guards, that's what it should be. If it's 3 forwards and 2 guards, that's what it should be.
But I'm saying the first 5, the first team should be the best player at each position. It should have the center. The other 10, the last 10, should just be positionless. You shouldn't have to have 2 other centers.
So then you're saying there should be like a first team starting 5 and then like an additional 10.
Yeah, and the rest are like the remaining top 10 players.
That's
in the
fine.
league.
That's fair, but it's still. I think if anything, it's still putting, because you said you would put Joel ahead of Tatum as one of the 5 best players in the league.
Exactly.
But by the parameters of what you're giving, you wouldn't be able to happen.
I see what you're saying.
What I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So I get that's a valid point. I like the fact that they're trying to go for positional representation, but at the same time, it's an era of the NBA where that positional representation doesn't matter as much. Like we talked about a few minutes ago. Back in the past where the post was more important, the center and the 4 and the 5 were more prominent positions. I kind of get it a little bit more.
And technically, the guy you have at center is the point guard for the team.
For the team.
You know what I mean? So you could put him at the 1. He's a better point guard overall than you have Devin Booker at right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So it's one of those, exactly. It's one of those things you can make the case where the guys who are doing the big man stuff are still providing the better point guard type of play. Just like when LeBron was, we're probably
you
not.
Could put him at any
exactly.
spot.
We're not in LeBron's prime anymore, but we're just a few years.
Exactly.
We're like a few years removed from it, and we were just in that span. He could have played any 5 of those positions, and it would have been fine because he was the best in the game at that.
Exactly.
He really reinvented the idea of the point forward, and because of that, it was hard to put LeBron in any certain position. You'd say, okay, fine, you throw him as a 3 or a 4, whatever, but he really does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 better than anybody. So because of that, you could put Jokic as the best center in the league. I just can't have Joel Embiid outside of the top 5 best players in the league. So that to me is the main point of contention, right? So it's fun debate. It's a kind of thing where it's more so for talk shows like this where we just chew over sports and stuff like that and, shoot the breeze. It makes for good conversation. It's nothing I'm going to lose sleep over. At the end of the day, everyone knows Joel Embiid right now is one of the 5 best players in the NBA. You can make the case based off of what he did in this singular year, the second best player behind the MVP himself.
Giannis plays the point for them sometimes.
Giannis has taken over for LeBron, playing that type of role of dominant point forward with the physical attributes as well as the fundamentals in basketball, offensively and defensively, probably even more so defensively than LeBron ever did. Giannis has taken that mantle. In many ways, we thought, like, who was it going to be? Was it going to be Kevin Durant running away with it? Was it going to be Kawhi Leonard running away with it? Because we just talked about, we knew just a few years ago, LeBron will still be prominent as he's a third-team All-League player this year, but we knew he wouldn't quite be the same force, and that's understandable. Now we wonder how much longer he's going to be in LA. But the immediate question was, just a couple years ago, especially once Leonard beat Golden State with Toronto, we were thinking, who's going to take the mantle from LeBron? You ask me right now, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Hands down, Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's just so easy for him to just be a basketball player.
Yeah.
At his size, his athleticism, it is just absolutely wild.
He's better at being better than you, basically, in all the attributes.
And unlike Luka, he's been in professional leagues
for a long time.
Since he was 16. But Luka started professionally overseas.
Bingo.
He started in the league.
Giannis went through the development.
Exactly.
Luka was thrown to the wolves. Giannis may have had a lot of overseas experience, but had a lot of developmental experience once he came here. Because let us not forget, Giannis got drafted in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of fine-tuning that had to go for the Greek Freak to become the Greek Freak. So it's just been so much fun to watch.
Skinny.
Exactly.
You thought KD was skinny?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Those early years, I mean, all the Antetokounmpo brothers were just so small coming out in terms of their frame, and you look how they bulked up. And that looks like an impressive movie, by the way. I look forward to watching that.
That is right. I
the
forgot
Disney
they
Plus,
made that.
The Disney Plus one,
I'll have to check that out.
So speaking of Disney Plus, we'll wrap up the show here coming up on the other side with some talk of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's watched both episodes. I have not. So we're nerded out in a bit. But before we do, we'll get to the ice. We'll get to the ring. Big fight tonight between Rolly Romero and Gervonta Davis. A lot of hype surrounding those two fighters, so it was inevitable once they met in Brooklyn here tonight, it was going to blow off. So tonight, we'll see some fireworks. We'll also, again, as I said, hit on the ice. We love talking basketball, but we at this point, we're going to be doing it for 3 hours.
Exactly.
So we'll pivot on the other side of the break. Stay put. It's Full Tilt. Brett, Lugo, keeping it rolling.
Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
All right, wrapping things up here. No worries, there's still plenty to talk about on Full Tilt. We'll have Richard back next week where he will dive into everything in the world of gambling, from all the table games to the card games that we know so well and love so much here in Las Vegas. So make sure to check out his book, Winning Ways. It's all in the book. So much of what Richard dives into right here on the show on a weekly basis, you could also get on the pages, all from him, the source himself. written a few years ago. Richard, very involved in print media and film. So we have an author, we have him as a producer, we have him as a gambling expert, as a filmmaker, as you just saw his trailer there during the break. He's a jack of all trades, an absolute Swiss Army knife. So thank you, Richard, for helping us out, obviously everything with Go Live Vegas Studios, and allowing me and Lugo to fill in for you today. So, as Lugo just had to pleasantly remind me, we do in fact have a game. I keep forgetting that my days are all off, so it's NBA at this point of year. NBA and NHL are pretty much fluctuating every day, alternating every day.
What a great time.
Exactly, Lugo took the words out of my mouth. What a great time it is. Pleasantly reminded that we have hockey in just a few moments, so it's about to get underway for the face-off. And with the Game 7 tipping off tomorrow, what a great way to carry through on the weekend, and a fight tonight that we will jump in on in just a second. But the Rangers are 120 favorites tonight in the Garden, taking on the Hurricanes. Carolina leads 3-2. Obviously, we're not hockey experts. We actually plan to have a premier hockey handicapper on the show in the near future. Hockey's one sport where we really kind of have to separate emotion from logic, because so much of the Vegas hockey experience in recent years, Lugo, has been an emotional roller coaster. So before we dive into these matchups themselves, just give our overall picks of how the Rangers and Carolina will fare, along with the Blues on the other side. What are your thoughts of having, for the first time, the Golden Knights not in the playoff picture? There's been several cases where they've been in the picture this far, but even so, we're in the postseason, maybe not to make it this far, getting eliminated by San Jose a few years ago, but we're still in it recently. It's been a long while since we've heard the Golden Knights or seen the Golden Knights, and your Blackhawks were responsible for that, that get booting them out of playoff contention. So you are a Chicago sports fan at your roots. Again, longtime athlete, longtime coach. You were born out here like I was, but it's very much embedded in your marrow. But the Golden Knights are an expansion team from the place you were born at. So I'm just going to ask you, what has it been like with the Knights out of the playoffs? Have you lost interest in the NHL without them in it?
Oh, no, I haven't lost interest in the NHL.
I haven't either.
No.
We actually liked it before they got here.
It brought the spark,
Yeah.
exactly. Not everyone has, you know what I mean? But I've always said this since the first season. To make it to the Stanley Cup like that so easily in the first year, I've always said, let's see what it's like in 3-4 years. And we're at that point now, and people are still riding with it. Granted, it went to about like one of the last 2-3 games in the season for them to decide if they were making it to the playoffs or not. But that's the point. That's what you want in a sports city, to even have that. You know, I've played on teams, and I've been the fan of teams where by the beginning of the season, you just know there's no shot. There's no playoffs. You know, there's no shot.
You throw in the towel early.
About 3 games in, you're packing the towel in. You know what I mean? So it's still nice to have that, but I don't see no dying out. It's nice now. We're kind of chilling out from that expectation. That's a high expectation to have right off the bat.
Right.
You know,
I think this is honestly going to be good for the franchise and good for the market, because now we can just get back to taking it year by year. So much of that emotional investment, I've talked about it on this network on a show I used to host. It was a prominent talking point because last year at this time, when I pretty much got involved with Go Live Vegas, the Golden Knights were making yet another push. And when they got eliminated, it was once again outrage and heartbreak. But I even remember saying on social media, saying right here on this very network, on these airwaves, this is what being a pro sports fan is all about. We got a huge bone, a huge gift thrown our way in the first couple of years, especially that first year with everything that happened after the shooting, after remembering the 58.
Exactly.
Obviously, then the number went up since then, but they were the fan base, the culture, the Vegas was so just built,
morally invested,
emotionally supportive of it, because we needed it, and it felt so amazing, not just to have the novelty of pro sports in Vegas for the first time, which was the case anyway, but for the season to tip off that October, just a few weeks after that went down on the Las Vegas Strip. That was one of the greatest sports stories you will ever see. Then it got a little skewed because they were unsuccessful against Washington. Ovechkin had his big, grand moment in the sun. That was a lot of hockey fans.
Long time coming.
It was hard to be mad.
Short end of the stick for us.
Bingo. Short end of the stick. We were just on the wrong side of history. But if you're a hockey fan, it was hard not to appreciate that. But what has happened in the recent years? Everything with the Sharks. Then everything.
They're a franchise now.
Last year. They're a legit franchise, and now they've been in a place where they've gone through 2 coaches now. They're in a place where they fired 2 coaches who have both gotten them to pretty much as far as you could possibly go, other than winning and hoisting the cup.
Didn't they fire the coach now?
Yes.
They only gave him 1 year and he was out?
Yeah.
That's great. The way they talk about panic button, huh?
That's why it's funny because, with Gallant, a lot of people thought maybe they're pressing the panic button too soon. But then since things were okay without Gallant, people thought, no, we'll just keep.
Isn't he in New York right now?
We'll keep smooth. Yeah, Gallant, and look at where bingo.
We're
literally 3 minutes away from Gerard Gallant in a game 6 scenario, possibly setting up in the Garden a game 7 in a couple of nights to go to the Stanley Cup Finals against Carolina. So again, hindsight 2020. It's Gerard Gallant was, there were some issues there after the first year or so, and they wanted to go in a different direction. But maybe they did pull the panic button too fast. Maybe they pulled the panic button too fast over all the recent changes they have. Now again, a lot of people were a little bit too caught up in Fleury and Ryan Reeves because again the emotional attachment. But Leonard has never caught traction in terms of the emotional aspect.
That Fleury trade caught up onto him in that last game,
right.
huh?
So you got to wonder though, was moving on from Fleury and moving on from the two different coaches, even in the moment it may have seemed right. Maybe it just shows that the franchise is a little bit too desperate to get back where they were. So much of what happens in hockey in the playoffs, you see teams that are like throughout the regular season with their shots on goal or defensively or their health, they just really catch fire, and the Knights were able to do that. So now in a period where they don't catch that fire, we will truly be tested as a fan base in terms of how we will move on, or how we will be considered in the world of hockey moving forward. Because hockey, believe it or not, Vegas, was a big thing before 2017. It's going to be a big thing without Vegas in the playoffs, and I think this is a good time to kind of sit back and reflect that we got lucky early. We could get back. They're still in the upper third of the teams in the NBA probably.
Exactly.
But we can't expect to be there every year anymore. You just can't.
And we kind of just expected the Raiders to kind of just, not make the playoffs.
No, that's another big thing.
That was expected.
There was a lot of
we knew what we were getting with that.
There was a lot of bitterness, it seems, for the Raiders. The fact that the Golden Knights are this homegrown team and as an expansion team, and the Raiders are a team with obviously legitimate history and but a bit of a reputation coming over. Here we are, though. The Knights don't make the playoffs, and the Raiders make the playoffs, have one of the best off seasons this year, and are going to be competing in the best division in professional football.
Oh, I can't wait.
And here we are with also conversations of NBA and Major League Baseball on its way. We've had those now for about a year and a half, and those will continue to be ongoing. So I think we're just at a particular place now where Vegas, obviously the Raiders have done well here as far as catching traction. A little bit more of a roadblock in terms of the fan base because of, again, coming over from California, historical franchise. But you can't say the revenue and the overall success hasn't been there. This town is welcomed him with open arms.
Oh, yeah.
You could talk about Arnett. You could talk about Ruggs. Those are outliers. Those are anomalies. Look at most of the scenarios with the Raiders, what they've been doing at the local level. It has been very
awesome.
impressive.
I'm speaking from personal
As a
experience.
coach,
Exactly.
No, in fact,
exactly.
I
They
would
give
too.
us just stuff. You know what I mean?
Go ahead,
It helps giving us like equipment and stuff.
Elaborate on that, because so much of the conversation about the Raiders coming here, as is the case anytime a professional football team, a professional football market starts to grow as it is here. Forget grow. It was born here. It's never existed before, and the Raiders have allowed it to grow. We talk about how that revenue will trickle down and affect collegiate football for UNLV. Already has had some positive impact.
They play in the stadium.
Bingo. They get to play in the stadium. It's already helped them a little bit with recruiting. High school. You coach the high school level. Have for a number of years now. You've seen the difference in 2018 and 2019 compared to now. It has made an immediate impact.
I did about 1 year of coaching before the Raiders came, and then once they made that announcement that last season they were in Oakland, they already jumped in and they already started going. And I remember going to a coach's clinic that before that season even started with the Raiders, and it was like it was a defensive tackling clinic or whatever. But every year, every time I come in about the start of the season, every couple months, there's just something there that we have, and they're just like, oh, here you go. We're donating to local schools. You guys just happen to be on it this time. And I mean, they've given us stuff to equip our kids, from gloves to cleats to extra just shoulder pads and stuff. It's been great. I forgot what the promotion was called. And I think the fullback from the team went down to El Dorado.
Yeah.
The head coach is a good buddy of mine. They went down, the new head coach, I should say, he's a good buddy of mine. They went down to El Dorado and they gave him a little check and they gave him a bunch of equipment to help him out, man. And it's just helping that and getting football more, just like hockey was a surge in hockey with the youth leagues around here.
All around the city.
Exactly.
All around
now,
the valley.
With football, you're starting to see it a lot more of it. Now, granted, it's always been one of the more popular sports to be to join for the kids.
Yeah.
But now that you have this and the spark of flag football and having the parents to have the option in the NFL running those flag football tournaments out here. During the Pro Bowl, they had a huge tournament. They had kids from every part of the country out here, and they had they showed that they premiered the game on ESPN.
Yeah.
Before that Pro Bowl even started.
Right. And the NFL obviously talking about getting rid of the Pro Bowl altogether, but that wasn't obviously Vegas being the final, dagger or the final nail in the coffin, if you will. That's been a discussion for a long time, and the NFL probably just should do away with that game if it's going to be that abysmal of an all-star competition. But I just love what you bring up there, Lugo, because it's so true. People often overlook because we're so hell-bent, and I get it. It's pro sports. We're going to be, and it's new to us. So again, a lot of this is brand new appeal, novelty, get it now, in stores now. Supply and demand, people jump at stuff like that, and it's like that new shiny toy we still have with football and hockey here. But sometimes we forget about the trickle-down effect pro sports has to the market around, like on all levels around the valley, and not just here, but all places, whether it be a major market, a mid-major, or a small market. Now, again, there is a bit of a disparity in particularly in NBA and MLB as far as how those small market teams function in the grand scheme of things, but so often we just forget. I get sports economics, sports marketing is its own animal, but it often has such a big plays such a big part into what you see in terms of the competitive product on the field. So that's why Vegas is having football so present, having hockey so present, overall helps the sports culture. Now, what they do on a year-by-year basis, that is up to the ball club itself. And as we just talked about for the Raiders, they are right there. The Knights falling back down to earth a little bit. We'll see if they can get back. We see Gerard Gallant, who was out there at the helm to begin with, again, on a Game 6 scenario right now. So before we wrap things up, Lugo, give me a pick. Do you think the Rangers force Game 7 tonight? Do you think they get it done and take on Carolina in Game 7?
Yeah. I'm always going to ride the team with in the playoffs, in a series going like this. I'm always going to ride with the home team, hands down.
And especially like we talked about
in the Garden. Come on now.
In Madison Square Garden in a Game 6. We talk about in the NBA Game 7s. I don't really take the home field or the home court, away court into account as heavily. But a Game 6 in a conference final for hockey, much different. I think the Garden will be lively tonight, and I think the Rangers and Gallant will get it done with their backs against the wall. Carolina's a really fast, explosive team, though. Really have a lot of depth, good with their line changes. So it's no guarantee that they get it done in Game 7, but I think they force a Game 7 here. All right, so 5 minutes coming up. This hockey game's about to be underway with the face-off here pending shortly. We also have a big fight going down in Brooklyn for we actually very frequently, as given our time slot here on Go Live Vegas, we luck out and kind of get it to be a little bit of a lead-in, a bit of a pre-game or a pre-fight show for some of these fights, whether MMA, boxing, whether they're taking place 10 minutes down the road from us or not. But this one taking place at the East Coast, Gervonta Davis putting his super lightweight title on the line against Rolando Romero. Davis is the 800 chalk. Romero coming back as a plus 550 dog, so a huge gap there. This is a fight that has a lot of hype surrounding it simply because the two fighters are very much, I guess you could say, social media darlings. Internet darlings. Gervonta Davis has attracted a huge fan base because of his appeal.
They've been chirping it up.
Because of his appeal, he's attracted a huge fan base. The media attention this week was fun. The press conference, we've had pushing, we've had shoving, we've had jawing, we've had ridicule and mockery. Any good fight should have that. But the matchup itself, styles make fights. Gervonta Davis, again, with his knockout prowess, is able to do a lot of things with the power. Even fighters who may be kind of on par, I guess you could say, with him, technically, even they often don't have an answer for that power, and that is why he's accumulated a record of 26 victories, 24 by way of knockout. Often the best way to counter that power is with an awkward style, maybe a lanky body type, and a lot of high volume, high offensive output. That's what Rolando Romero brings to the table. He has 14 wins, 12 KOs, so not as experienced, Gervonta Davis, kind of what we were talking about the amateur basketball circuit compared to pro basketball circuit. Gervonta became a pro very early, affiliated himself with TMT and Floyd Mayweather, and was able to find the right kind of path economically, financially, from the business side of things. And then the rest of it was just his skills and his power taking place. He's a guy who throws crisp combinations, really fluid, really twitchy, just a great explosive athlete. But the techniques and the fundamentals often get overlooked, as they usually do with power punchers, because being a YouTube darling that he is, people think Tank Davis, they think knockouts. That Tank nickname is very apropos, and even though Rolly Romero is a really talented fighter in his own right and is an absolute dog, I do not think he fears Gervonta's power, but I do think he will be at the receiving end of that power. Give me Tank Davis. I'm not playing the particular round here. I'm not betting this fight either, just because, again, the odds across the board kind of reflect the money line prices being very lopsided, with Tank Davis being that 800 favorite and Romero coming back to plus 550. That's kind of the way it is across the board, but I will pick Tank via knockout, not betting it, but am playing it, as we got a little Memorial Day, celebration there. I hope you guys enjoy your Memorial Day Monday. Always a big weekend for us in Vegas out here, and there will be plenty come Monday morning to recap in the sports world. So there are our picks. Lugo likes the Heat on the money line. I like the Heat on the money line as well as the spread. We both like the Rangers tonight in Game 7. I'm leaning Tank Davis via knockout over Rolando Romero. No play on the round. I just think he gets the knockout win, so I'm playing the outcome, if you will. Give me Davis to continue rolling here with the knockouts, one of the most powerful punchers in the game. He's talking about a 140-pound fighter who hits like he's about 154 pounds. So that's my pick. Do you have a take on the fight? You're just going to see what happens.
I'm just enjoying the fight.
We're just going to we'll have to get back right now, get that up on pay-per-view, and crack open a few beers. Again, Game 7 underway now between Carolina and Game 6 with Game 7 on the line. Game 7 tomorrow taking place. Again, Carolina leading 3-2. If Gallant and company get it done tonight in the Garden, they will force a Game 7 against the Hurricanes. Thank you, Lugo.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. Happy Memorial Day.
Way to touch it up there right at the end. So again, Game 6 tonight, Game 7 tomorrow, big fight tonight. Plenty to talk about next week. Enjoy your Memorial Day. Richard will be back. This was a blast. Lugo will have him. He'll be a stranger. He won't be a complete stranger, I should say. We'll have him back in the near future. And anyone else who wants to join the show, why not? We'll welcome you with open arms. Aaron's a nice guy. Come on in, join the fun. We'll be back same time, same place next week on Go Live Vegas. Have a good one, y'all, and happy Memorial Day.
Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas